Everyone points their hands at the politicians as the villain of the story, the Nigerian story. And do not get me wrong, it's a big strategy to have bad leadership in any country, right? But we have to come to terms with the fact that the villain in this story called Nigeria is you and I. Is the culture that we have placed. The fact that we place more value on vanity. There's a culture of vanity over value. This in itself I've discussed in previous episodes when I speak about materialism, capitalism, the differences and the rest. That value of vanity, right? The value of materialism over capitalism, the value of vanity over value, the value of celebrating anyone that comes our way who has money, as respecting them, as treating them with regard, as looking up to them without verifying where those funds come from. That is the major problem we have in Nigeria. Most people say that Nigeria can never develop. Most people say that Nigeria cannot develop because we are overtly divided. We have poor or bad or not good enough leadership. And I think those are the two main reasons why a lot of people think that Nigeria cannot develop. One is Nigerians, we're too divided. Secondly, our leaders are terrible. Well, I sympathize with those standpoints, and I've taken my time in previous episodes and shorts to explain a bit why those are myths and not reality. Vanity is a chaotic culture for a developing nation, because we would spend our time celebrating every shiny object we see over every shiny value. And there's a big difference between the two. We need to decide together who we put at the front seats in our meetings, at our birthdays, at our weddings, even before we now talk about going further into the leaders. Because it starts from there. If you would pick someone who has a questionable character, someone whose wealth cannot be verified as the chairman of your wedding, the chairman of your event, you see that people applaud the person. When you see the person, you feel like, wow, this person is so successful. Or you even maybe pretend to the person that the person is successful, and behind the person's back, gossip about the person. All those do not create value, right? What I'm trying to say is the culture of vanity has to stop. We have to put at our front row people that create value. So for instance, you see someone who has a small business, maybe employed 3 people, 10 people, even 15 people, and you see someone else who doesn't have a business but who drives shiny car, rents private jets, and you are more elated to have that person at your event or over someone who you've watched have placed value of hard work, of integrity, and he or she is moving at a pace towards success and equipping people, younger people, with internship, trainings, employment. And for some reason you don't respect that person the way you respect the other person that has shiny objects, then you are the villain in Nigeria, not the politicians. You are the villain. Because what does that mean? That means that you would also, or we would also, celebrate these politicians when they come to our environment, knowing fully well that that particular politician, because I must say that not all politicians are bad and not all political leaders are bad, right? So for instance, you see a bad leader with shiny objects approach your business, approach your congregation, or approach a gathering, and you see people excited, or special guest of honor is. Meanwhile, you know that person is terrible. You are the villain of the story. Because when we shun wealth that is ill-gotten, then people, inclusive of the bad eggs in politics, will know that what Nigerians are celebrating now is not wealth, but value. Is not shiny objects, but shiny value. I hope you understand the difference. So every time you look at the politician and say, oh, it's politicians that are our problem. If every Nigerian shuns politicians that are bad, they will change. So we want Nigeria to change. We need to pick value over vanity. Capitalism, some people say, oh, capitalism is bad. I do not mean, what I mean is, let me just say value creation over materialism. Now, what is the second villain? The second villain is this one leg in, one leg out. You're traveling out and everyone is saying, oh, you're returning back to Nigeria. Oh, I thought you've japped. Oh, I thought you found an escape route. Oh, I thought you found a way to leave this country. I will do anything within my power to leave Nigeria. You are the villain in Nigeria. Yes, you are. Now, am I saying that expatriation, traveling, visiting places, going to other countries, traveling around the world is a bad thing? No. In a third world country, and I will not mention Nigeria as a third world country, but I will use that as an instance. In a third world country, you will see people trying so hard, doing everything within their power to leave their country. You will see people making decisions that show that they are one leg in, one leg out in their country. You are the villain of Nigerians' great future. Those are the two villains in our story. Mentioned reasons why we all should believe in Nigeria. I've also mentioned reasons why even if you have another citizenship, you are still a Nigerian, right? By ancestry, you're a Nigerian, right? I've mentioned all that. You can check my previous episodes. I've spent a bit of time discussing that. But moving forward, you would then say, you do not understand. The government, they are just too bad. They are terrible. And then I would ask you, who is the government? You and I are the government. And this exit strategy, a third world exit strategy, has to stop, because in first world nations, the citizens understand that they are the government. If you pay for an item, maybe you give a baker some money to bake goods, bread for you, you're performing your government duties. Why? You're supporting the economy. You have an agreement and a contract with that baker. If you pay for extra security, maybe you're traveling for Christmas or you're going to another part of Nigeria and you say, oh, Nigeria is so unsafe. I have to pay for extra security. I have to secure my house. I have to secure my journey if I'm going by road. You are performing a government function because you are securing yourself and your goods. So in as much as we want to think that the government are people in Abuja in some plush office having a good life, unfortunately, no, that's not the standard of a first world nation citizen. Knows that he or she are part and parcel of the government, and the culture of the people is reflected in the government. First way to solve this situationship we have in Nigeria, where we cannot say we're not progressing, because you can see several, good things happening in the country, in as much as there are also negative things, there are also positive things. But we can see that we are in a situationship with stagnation to a very large extent, especially with the level of retrogression of the welfare of most Nigerians. And an economic development scholar defined development as the freedom. The more freedom you have to live, to have good food, good shelter, good transportation system, good healthcare, the more developed you are as a country, right? So if we take those indices and say, okay, Nigeria's GDP has gone up, how many people can afford or access better healthcare? How many people can afford or access good education? How many people can afford or access good infrastructure as in regards to roads, bridges, and and the rest? So when you look at those indices, then you realize that perhaps we are not moving in the right direction towards our development, or perhaps we are not moving as fast as we should move in Nigeria towards our development. And the main problem why we're not moving forward, the argument that Nigeria's problem is coming from bad leadership. Well, I would say that no country develops without the citizens holding the government accountable. No country develops without citizens holding the government accountable. And we would want to sit back and say, we're not developing as a country because of the government, and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, you can hold your leaders accountable. You can hold your leaders accountable. And why is it very important to hold your leaders accountable? We all have to start paying attention to the budget, to the funds coming in, funds allocated for several parts of the budget. We have to track the numbers. I would say that what we can do now is to have a trackvolution. Track this government, hold them down by tracking every single fund that is allocated to your senate, to your government, to your state government, to your local government, to the councillors, track these funds down. Follow the numbers. Publish when you see that these funds are being siphoned. Do not follow this system of everything that trends comes to an end. Everything that trends is only for a while. You just have to keep quiet. So, for instance, let's say a bad leader finds out that I was just published to have stolen XYZ amount of money, and my party is in power, and the people will soon forget. Nigerians now, they will soon forget. You want change? You want to be the hero of Nigeria's story? Then track the numbers. Create a culture around tracking the numbers, and create the culture to sustain the mind power to remain active in tracking and publishing the numbers. There are several websites that already do that you can check. There are several websites, several initiatives, several NGOs that already track these numbers. Follow them, publish them. When you're looking for what to post on your Instagram page, what to post on your WhatsApp page, keep on posting, keep on publishing, write. Let them know that there's something different about Nigerians. There's something different about their citizens. There's something different about the citizens of Nigeria. We are not keeping quiet any longer when it comes to the use of our funds. Now, some people think that if I love Nigeria, I have to abuse Nigeria. I already spoke about that in previous episodes. I do not think that's being intelligent. Speaking poorly about your country is not the most intelligent thing to do. And some people think that trashing a politician creates a change. It just creates negativism, right? So rather than just cuss out a politician, you just take your phone. That politician is so stupid. Look at what he did. Why are Nigerians so dumb? Why are Nigerian politicians so silly? That does not create change. Firstly, why am I saying that? Firstly, bashing creates a negative environment, creates a negative feel. So for instance, I'm already thinking, Nigeria is doing poorly. I'm thinking, how can I leave this country? I take my phone, I flip, and what am I hearing? From maybe an influencer or from maybe a citizen that cares about the country, just abusing one politician, abusing the country. You're not creating value, because what you've done is create hopelessness in me. You have created hopelessness in your younger ones. The Gen Zs that are coming up, you're creating heavy hopelessness in them. And if it's a Gen Z doing that, you're creating heavy hopelessness in Gen Alpha or whatever generation is next, because I'm Gen Millennial, right? So rather than do that, it's easy to lash out. We all know it's easy to lash out. It takes self-restraint to constructively communicate and to, create solutions and to go through the painstaking process of communicating your solutions over and over again and seeking collaborations. So that's what you should do. You should go through the harder process, because that's what creates change. So for instance, let's assume I find out that politician A just stole XYZ amount of money, or leader, social leader or economic leader. I mentioned there are 4 kinds of leaders: political, religious, economic, and thought. And the thought leaders cover several other kinds of leaders. And a thought leader can also be a politician. A thought leader can also be a political leader. A thought leader can also be a religious leader. A thought leader can also be an economic leader, right? So a thought leader covers every other form of leadership that I might not have categorized outside of those 3, inclusive of the thought leader. So let's assume leader A, which comes from any of this bracket, but possibly not, and probably not from a thought leader, because a true thought leader should be filled with integrity and should be filled with self-restraint from engaging in siphoning of funds and the rest. But let's assume leader A steals money. You find out, or you do your analysis, or you check a website, an active website that publishes all these numbers for our tracking, for us to also hold these leaders accountable. And then we see these numbers and we say, like, oh my God, that you just take your phone immediately. You're a useless man. God will punish you. Sorry, how does that add value to Nigeria? It does not add value. Rather than go through that process, go through the process of finding out who this leader is, after verification that this is actually true. Decide, for instance, this person steals 1 billion. Say 1 billion can build XYZ amount of hospitals, can build XYZ amount of schools, can build a research and Development Institute in your state or in your local government. So I'm appealing to this particular leader, rather than just keep quiet, please prove to us that you actually care about Nigeria by building XYZ this and then make it, push it out there, get your friends to repost it and the rest. That is even a better way to solve the problem of accountability, because every time we say Nigerian leaders are the cause of our problems, then accountability is the bedrock of holding these leaders accountable is the bedrock of creating the required change that we need. And I've also said that holding them accountable does not mean bashing people all around. It means preferring true self-restraint, better solutions, and if need be, even if you need to speak up about stepping down from the seat of office or saying you can't lead us anymore. Be civil, be intelligent about it, right? It's saying being civil, I mean when you go on social media to explain, be civil on social media is what I'm saying. When you're going on social media to talk about the problems of the country, be civil. Remember that Nigeria is your country, and insulting, abusing, creating making a lot of people feel hopeless about the situation doesn't help. Constructively discuss, constructively call out, constructively prefer solutions that the country or that particular leader should have done. And even if you want to advise the leader, step down and give your reasons why we will not allow for such kind of leadership to exist anymore in Nigeria. All of us citizens, we are over 200 million people. Imagine if just 10% of us, 20 million of us, decide to take this approach. Would Nigeria be better or not? Would Nigeria be better or not? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Celebrate people that are creating solutions in the country. You see a plumber, celebrate a carpenter. We celebrate that electrician that has been doing electrical work for years. Those are the true heroes in Nigeria. Don't say, my birthday is going to be big, this governor is coming. If the governor is doing well in the country, yes, we celebrate. Come for our party. If you're not doing well, please do not come. If you come to our church and you're terrible, be very well assured that we would not celebrate you, we would shun you, we would possibly even make it very clear that you're a terrible leader. This idea of celebrating anything that is shiny is the villain of our story. I already said that this one leg in, one leg out. I'm escaping. If I can find a way to escape this country, the countries that you're going to, those countries that you're going to, the only difference between your country and the country that you're going to is that those citizens of those countries realized at some point in their development that they are the ones with the power, not these leaders. They are the ones with the power. So if you do nonsense in office, you're out. You do nonsense, you're out. Right? You do nonsense, you're out. And when we go to these countries, and they can tell that this guy is not, or this woman is not necessarily bringing value to this country. This person is not a real expatriate that has some skill that we need. This person came to this country because they are running away from their own country. And they disrespect you, and you're unhappy with the disrespect. And you're like, this is so inhumane. But and I'm not suggesting that there's ever a reason to disrespect another human being. But I'm saying that when they hear you're from Nigeria, they see the resources you have, they see the greatness of your country, and they see you probably suffering in another man's country, doing the jobs you will never do in your own country. They find it amusing. So they are wondering, why is this person not going back to fix their country? Why are these people not fixing their country? Why are they all running away, leaving a few people who they call the elite to rule them and to treat them poorly, right? And there are humanitarian laws against treating people poorly, but you want people to treat you right. You see, this is our skin color, this black, beautiful skin color that I have. You want it to be respected, you stop running away. You stop picking vanity over value. You start seeing things as they are. You start respecting the plumber, you start respecting the electrician, you stop respecting people that are stealing from the system. You don't smile at them when you see them. As a group, you don't smile at them. They come to your community to endorse a shiny project that you and I both know is 0.00% of how much funds that they are supposed to have used, and you're smiling, you're looking for where you will get money from them, from how you will do contract with them, you are the villain, not those leaders. You are the villain, because we are too much of an intelligent nation to sit back and have the feel of hopelessness when we should just hold these guys accountable. And I've said in previous episodes, we are diverse. Yes, we are diverse. We have several ethnic groups. Does that mean that we cannot develop state by state, local government by local government? Or is for instance, if I'm from the east, is a Yoruba man stopping me from developing my local government? Or if I'm an Igbo person in Lagos, is an Igbo person stopping a local government from developing, from using its funds properly? Now, a lot of local governments are not getting their funding, as we already have been told. How many of us have started holding the state governments accountable? You're inviting them for your programs. You want to feel big. Me too, I'm big. I know the politician. That's where our problem arises from. You see there, that's the exact point of the problem of Nigeria, not the leaders. Because the leaders are an overflow of the citizens. They came from us. We didn't come from them. They came from us. We did not come from them. They came from us. Now, moving forward, according to the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, NIIMP, Nigeria needs over 100 billion yearly to meet up with the infrastructure. And this is also accepted globally, not as in this is a Nigerian number. This is a global number. To grow a nation that is developing, you need to spend $100 billion yearly for a period of 20 years, 2.3 trillion. Now, the budget shows that, we had a budget of 57 trillion or so. Guess how much is in there for infrastructure? I think 2 less than 3 trillion is for infrastructure. Now, does that mean that does it mean that the funds cannot be used to create at least some required development? No. And that's where accountability comes in. That's why we need to follow the money. But moving beyond that, I've spent a lot of time on that. Moving beyond that, so looking at the budget, we see that there's a 97.5 budget gap between how much was allocated for infrastructure in Nigeria from the latest budget, the cost that it would take for Nigeria to have real and full infrastructural development, a gap of 97.5% from NIIMP and the World Bank and several global organizations. Does this mean that the situation is hopeless? No. NIIMP has stipulated the need of 2.3 trillion. And so, if you look at this situation, you will see that it is mathematically impossible for us to have a robust First Nation infrastructure in Nigeria. It is mathematically impossible. Out of the 57 trillion budget, over 15 going to loan repayments, principal and interest. Yes, you heard me right. So education, security, healthcare, infrastructure, you put the four together, is still not up to the amount that the government is using to fund the loan, to pay the interest and to pay the principal. What does this mean for us in Nigeria? Don't even mistakenly say Nigeria is here, we are done, nothing can be done, it's finished for us. No, don't say that. That's not the point. That's not where I'm getting to. Right? What I'm saying now is there has to be a change of mindset in Nigeria, especially by the citizens. We need to come to terms with the fact that the greatest lie we can tell ourselves in this country is that some government is coming to save us. That's the greatest lie. If you elect a new leader and the leader is great, the leader can assist you and I, assist the over 200 million people in Nigeria to create change by using the funds available, which is very heavily underfunded, to assist the infrastructural development of the country. So, were to be speaking to a leader in government right now, I would say you need to start seeing yourself as the gardener towards Nigeria's development, not the front runner of Nigeria's development, the gardener of Nigeria's development, because the front runner of Nigeria's development are the citizens. Equipping the citizens. So when I say the gardener, I mean equipping the citizens with the useful tools required for them to innovate, to create value, and therefore to create development. Now, let me go a little bit deeper into what I'm saying, because I don't think I'm being very clear enough. Firstly, I've said, and this is my second chapter of this discussion, that we do not have the required funds in Nigeria as at today to meet up with the infrastructural development we need in the country. I've also said that, I said in passing, I already discussed it, that even these funds that we have, if we do not hold the government accountable by trackvolution, tracking of our money that are in the hands of our elected or rigged leader, as the case may be, we must track these funds. But moving beyond that, we must understand that the funds available are not enough to create a first world nation. Like when you go to a first world nation, how beautiful the nations are. The feel of this, the ambience, the aesthetics of the infrastructure. We do not have the required funds in Nigeria. And so the government needs to realize that they are not the builders of development, but the gardeners of development. The builders of development are the citizens, because they can create value through their brain and through their hands. Their brain and their hands. Which is why you see that once you have a skill, any nation is willing to have you. They are willing to, it's called brain drain. They are willing to take you, meaning that they know that the brain and the hands are what every nation, great nation, need. They can even give you a talent visa. What is a talent visa? You're taking our talent and you're calling it talent visa? Anyway, so the government has to realize that they are the gardeners and not the builders. And the citizens have to realize that pointing fingers that this few group of people can transform this mighty nation is totally and irresponsibly untrue and impossible. We have the major part to play in our development by creating value. Now, the government can use the funds available to create, in strategy, we call it guerrilla warfare. When there's a big country with so much, and there's a small country and they have to fight, the small country has to use a guerrilla tactic to defeat, because they know that if they come in one-on-one, the population here is going to defeat the population here. Now, in Nigeria, we have to have a guerrilla strategy and a guerrilla tactic. How can we develop our nation with these funds that are not enough, that has a 97% gap? And still in that 97% gap, we are still funding loans, we are still paying salaries. So before the government would take any funds for infrastructure, they will first fund their loans. Then they will pay salaries. Whatever is left comes in for infrastructure, which is why you can call it paper budgets. If you go around the ministries, you will see that most ministries and most government parastatals are getting 44% out of the 100% of approved budgets. So you see an approved budget and you'll be hopeful. But no, less than 50% of that budget is being dispersed because the funds are not there. And funds that are there are now being used to treat loans, to pay salaries. So we have to think about the guerrilla tactic, the strategy. The government has to think as a strategic partner with the Nigerian citizens towards our development as a first world nation by first deciding what those funds should be used for that are critical infrastructure, critical towards our development. Issues around power, because a factory, you want the citizens to go and create value, and they are spending all their money on power. There has to be all sorts of collaborations between citizen A, citizen B, citizen A and the government. And this idea of contract, let's make contract, the little money government has, they will now give the contract to someone that will now sell the contract. You see, all those things can be stopped through accountability by the citizens, shunning corruption completely, because you've realized that that's where our problem lies, right? So the citizens are the builder of Nigeria as it is now, the strategic builder of Nigeria, and the government are the gardeners, using the funds available to fund critical projects that can assist the citizens to innovate and to create higher value, more sustainable value. The government has to also invest in research and development and the citizens too. You have an NGO, you have an initiative, research on, there's some funding has to go to research and development because we have to start thinking into the future. How can we turn our raw materials to finished products? How can we create a good power supply? Engineers, I'm sure they have their own association, come together and agree on a researching on how we can really get to this full power supply. What does it take? After the conclusion from these associations, with of course collaborations with other engineers from other parts of the world, publish it on national newspaper, publish it everywhere. This is what it takes. This is the amount it takes. These are the ways we can get this money. These are the economic leaders that are willing to support this infrastructure. This is going to be their return. And this is how we can. Nigeria's problem is not government. I'm telling you, because if government means some few elite, no. If government means you and I, then yes. A lot of leaders won't change you, to be honest with you. A lot of leaders won't change, but they don't know what to do, a lot of them, because they feel stuck in the system. So if they know they have 100,000 citizens that are willing to work with them, share their own visions with them, collaborate with them, that's change, right? And do you understand what I'm trying to say? We are the change we need. We are the change we need. We are over 200 million people. What? We are the change we need. Right. Be civil, be intellectual, be sound. Right? Now, after all that, my third point is the fact that we have a crisis of policy winter. So a president will come in, all the other things this other president has done, especially if they are not from the same party, we are leaving it, we are starting our own. Not in Nigeria. When they know they have first world citizens that do not take such, they will not try it. If we have gone through the process of deciding as a group of people that this is the best use of our funds or this infrastructure should be developed, then another person will come, I don't like that former politician, I'm leaving the project. In where? In which country? When you make them know that it's impossible for that to be done. Like I've said, it's not an issue of trending. I will make this man trend after 1 month. No, it's a culture shift. We hold our leaders accountable as a culture, because in first world nations, they hold their leaders accountable as a culture. We die here. If you want to make money, find a way to make money, but not our money, because you're taking $1. That $1 can transform this vicinity forever. And you're taking it and you think it's a joke. What is making it a joke? How is that a joke? This politician, this political leader or this particular leader stole 500 billion and he has stranded, now he's free. For what? Do you know the hospitals that 500 billion can build towards our first world nation? We have a vision. We have a vision. So this idea of policy winter, this one man will come, this woman will come, this leader will come, we'll stop here, we'll continue from here, everywhere is upside down. No. Big no. We might have our diversity. We might be a country of diverse cultures, but we stand on one value, that we want to become a first world nation. We do not want to be running around looking for a nation to go to because we don't like our country because of something small as infrastructural development. The 2.3 trillion that is lacking or that is needed, that's market. In the Igbo Sea, that is market. That is business awaiting collaborations. So we will not live in hopelessness. What is a value? What is a market value? Is a product that can create value, that can create solution. Meaning that if we are needing funds in infrastructure, in ICT, in healthcare, in education, that is a market value. That is money that should be generated and regenerated and be circling around Nigeria, which will now, become, you can see, a wave of development, right? And then, lastly, we are the ones that can change our country to a first world nation. This book called Paradox of Prosperity, you can go get the book. It speaks on market solutions, why development comes from market solutions. And we saw that in America, for instance, development came from economic revolution. And now some people will say, I will say this in passing because we don't have enough time anymore. When we speak about innovation and research and development, we are not only speaking about IT, we're also speaking about manufacturing, right? China understood this, and this is why they are way ahead of India, even though they were almost at the same pace at some point. India focused on only innovation and service, and so a lot of people still remain in poverty. China, on the other hand, focused on innovation, focused on research and development, focused on manufacturing, industrialization. Thereby, they lifted over 800 million people off poverty. So, yes, fintechs are there, but real industries has to also be there. The power has to be there. Engineering Association of Nigeria have to come together, create a solution around our power issue. Civil engineers, create a solution on our infrastructure. This is what we need to fund it. This is how to collaborate. We need to become functional leaders. And lastly, we need to have a shared meaning. So, Nigeria can never develop. We are so divided. Do we have a shared meaning? Do we all want development? Do we all want to become a first world nation? Are we tired of looking for a way out of Nigeria? Do we want to be part of the solution of Nigeria? Then we have to have a shared meaning. We have to have one goal to become a first world nation. So we can be diverse in our states. We are all different. That's why we have states, we have local government, we have senators, we have House of Reps. Let that shoulder our diversity. Then as a nation, we need to even start thinking of the fact that we can become a first world nation. And if you feel that's so much for you, then make your state a first world state. Anyone that says my tribe is being treated poorly, we are being sidelined, make your tribe a first world tribe. Let every street in that tribe, every street, every hospital, every school be fully developed. We speak about security. How can we develop without security? Do you know that this transparency and accountability would really, really reduce insecurity? Because every time you see, most of these fundings are coming from so-called NGOs. Any youth center that wasn't built, check very well, that youth center that wasn't built, the money might have gone to an extreme group. Either kidnappers, bombers, and the rest. So if you track that money, if you track your funds well, you say this politician is funding, where did he get the money from? Nobody will use their money that they sweat for to fund insecurity. It's government money of the people. If you track that money, you stop insecurity. That's one. Insecurity is also stopped by social security. When people know they have where to eat, they see development coming in a massive way with all the citizens charged. Not that one man is fighting, sweating to try and make everything better for the rest of us. They see a change of culture. They see an inspired shift. Those things will drop by itself. It will reduce. Even if it doesn't become zero, it will drastically reduce. That said, I aspire, or I hope that we all aspire to have Nigeria as a first world nation, as our shared meaning in Nigeria, right? And we learn to love one another. The leaders learn to have self-restraint so that they can use the funds properly. The author of the book titled From Third World to First World, story about Singapore, said that if you were to pick one word on how Singapore was able to transform, is confidence. The confidence of the people is what he said is the one word, not money, the confidence. And I agree, we have a different social-cultural, perhaps our population, the fact that they have, I think, 2 or 3 ethnicities. We have over 200 or 500 ethnic groups. But I've said enough about how we can manage our diversity, how we can, infuse that into our state, into our local government. No diverse issues is within ourselves there. And if you say, even in our local government, we have 3 tribes, you have councillors. There are about 8 wards. You can start from there. Thank you so much. Father, may we all realize that we are the bridge to our development. And may we all remember that our unborn children are expecting from us the transformation that Nigeria needs to become a first world nation, so that they can live in peace and unity and progress. Give us the mind that think clearly and the hands that work diligently. May we shun vanity, kept as corruption, and may we shine and rise to the first world nation that we truly are. Thank you.